Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Amazing grace and an amazing week for President Obama. The Supreme Court upheld his signature achievement, his health care law. Then it ruled to legalize same-sex marriage. Then he gave a stirring eulogy for the slain pastor in South Carolina. So, Brad, the week that the president had last week, will that change the way that Americans see their president, this president?
I think so. I think to some degree, obviously the shine will come off pretty quickly. I mean, those around who are seeking to destroy our president will continue taking shots at him. But he certainly had a great week, and he should pound his chest for that and be proud. I also think that this is going to be this is good for like the Hillary Clintons and all, and others that are running, for president, so they could then just, even though they may not have had the guts to do what he did. In terms of touting the health care law and the like, he ran against so much opposition and kept pushing and pushing, and it finally passed muster with the Supreme Court.
Professor,
so they could jump on board.
Professor, were you caught off guard that Chief Judge Roberts went along on the health care law for Obama's signature issue?
Yeah, of course we didn't know, but we knew that he had supported it last time, much to the dismay of most Republicans. So it wasn't far-fetched, and I think many of us are still trying to make sense between his decision in the healthcare, the Obamacare law, and then his decision on gay marriage. I do think it makes sense, but I think we have to read the decisions very carefully in that regard. So you get something of a mixed bag from John Roberts. He's very much an institutionalist. He is somebody who wants to make sure that the Supreme Court maintains its legitimacy, and he felt like in the marriage case it certainly couldn't. So from that perspective, not as much of a surprise.
Frank, the week that the president had last week, will that change the way that history is going to judge him?
I don't think this week alone will change the way that history will judge him. I hope it does give the president some wind in his sails in allowing him to be more focused on the things that he can do to build his legacy. Now, what are those things? First of all, he should stop doing podcasts where he uses the N-word. That's number one. Number two is I think he should recognize the fact that the people that disagree with him on key issues like Obamacare or illegal immigration or these executive orders without regard to anything Congress is doing, they're not from another planet. These are legitimate political players with legitimate concerns. I think he needs to do something to show that he hears those concerns. It was very interesting that the first time that he's getting along with Congress is with this trade bill. I wish he would have started that outreach to Congress earlier on. You remember in first year in his presidency, he did that kind of question and answer with Republican members of the House. I thought that was great, and the president came across great. And I think it would help him to understand these are legitimate concerns. These aren't made up, and maybe make some progress on some other bipartisan ideas like tax reform or something else.
Now, you mentioned the controversy over the N-word. Let's talk about the other big controversy out of South Carolina, and that's the Confederate flag. We spoke to Al Sharpton last week about the Confederate flag controversy and the South Carolina church shooting, and he also told us that he's worried about his own safety. Take a look. Governor Haley in South Carolina, Republican. Does she deserve credit, Reverend Sharpton, for calling for the flag to be taken down from the State House?
I think that when you look at the fact she defended that flag for so many years, and others defended it for so many years, a flag that not only represents racism and slavery and lynching, but a flag that represents a rebellion against the country. It's a flag of treason. They defended it. And you're going to tell me it takes 9 innocent people to die in Bible class for you to change your mind? I think that I'm glad that we take it down. But if I don't show up at the celebration party, it's because 150 years after the Civil War, we're going to thank you for taking down the flag of the people that were defeated for tearing up the country over us? I mean, really? And you want me to pop the champagne? They lost the Civil War, Governor Haley. You're talking about an 87-year-old woman in Bible class. We can't go to Bible class and be beyond this. And the chilling thing is, what happens in any of our churches or our rallies? And what happens if a copycat says that's a good idea? All of this goes through your head. Me, as visible as I am, I wake up every morning, Dominic, understanding that there are people in America that wish I didn't wake up. To have to wake up knowing the hate against you personally, as well as your people every morning, and keep fighting anyway. People act like this is celebrity. This is celebrity. That boy represents to me the risk we face every day.
Reverend Sharpton speaking with us. Now, Professor, I want you to respond, but let me just set this up here. First, I was shocked to hear Sharpton talk about his own safety, in which he went on to say that someone, in light of this, could walk up for him for an autograph, a picture, or to blow his brains out. That's a direct quote. And Sharpton has been stabbed before when he was in Bensonhurst at a protest. But as it relates to Governor Haley of South Carolina, after that interview, Mr. Sharpton spoke to the governor. They agreed that they're going to sit down and talk. Professor, I was a little surprised. Maybe I'm a bit naive here politically, but I thought that Governor Haley deserved some credit for going out there on a limb supporting pulling down the flag.
You know, I think she does deserve credit. Look, if we're going to give Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton credit for coming around on gay marriage, we should give Governor Haley the same due respect. She had to buck her own party to do this. It's not easy. The party should have given her cover. They haven't given their candidates cover, haven't given their officials cover, and look, she came out and did it. He's absolutely right. It should never have gone up in 1948 to begin with, but it did, and you find this governor there, and she did the right thing. And of course it's unfortunate 9 people had to die to have this happen. It's sickening, but that's what had to happen. She could have easily ducked down. She didn't.
Well, obviously, the last time Al Sharpton was stabbed, and when he was stabbed, he got a multi-million-dollar settlement from the taxpayers of the city of New York, which, as you know, you don't have to pay taxes on. So given Al Sharpton's tax problems, I don't think he'd mind getting stabbed again in order to get another multi-million-dollar payday.
That's a little tough.
Well,
that's a little
facts
tough.
are facts. You don't have to pay taxes on it. He owes millions in taxes.
I know I don't want to be stabbed.
No, nobody does, and nobody wants anybody to be stabbed. But it's the height of hypocrisy for Al Sharpton not to welcome Nikki Haley's change of heart, when if you look at what society has forgiven Al Sharpton, his remarks about David Dinkins, calling him the N-word, his anti-Semitic activities and remarks in the light of Freddie's Fashion Mart and the Crown Heights riots, his anti-gay remarks, somehow we're expected to forgive everything that he's ever done. But when it comes to Nikki Haley, because she didn't come around quickly enough for Al Sharpton's timetable, he's not going to celebrate. And where was he criticizing Bill Clinton when Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas and they had a star for the Confederate flag flying outside the State House? When he was praising people like Senator J. William Fulbright, a segregationist. I don't remember him being as outspoken criticizing the Clintons as he now seems to be in criticizing Nikki Haley for coming around late.
I'm going to step around the Al Sharpton remarks because I don't want to get involved with agreeing with him, because agreeing with him is agreeing with somebody who's just someone who lacks credibility, in my estimation. That said, is the Confederate flag has been a thorn in the side of Americans for a long time, should never have been flown after the Civil War. It was, I suppose everybody kind of got used to it. They kind of felt some ownership to this flag that really speaks to great hatred and speaks to great divisiveness. I don't know that we should have ever gotten to that point, but over the years we have, and something really awful occurred and tragic, and the killing of these 9 individuals. It caused something, I suppose, something good out of it. So, look. It is what it is. You can't go backwards in life. You can only go forward. And now that we're moving forward, we won't have this Confederate flag and what it means and what it reflects in our world. I guess that's a pretty decent thing.
And by the way, taking down the flag's not going to do anything about the racism that caused these acts or the racism that still exists. So I think we're putting a lot of stock in a symbol. I think it should come down, but it's not going to change that type of racism. A lot more work has to be done.
I agree. But you know what? If there was a swastika as a Jew, if I saw that,
I agree. It should come down.
I would be like, you know what? That's got to go. I understand the hatred's there, But I
agree
can't
it
just
has to
walk
come
past
down.
this.
I agree it has to come down, but to say, oh, we're good now, we're cleansed, this
No.
is good to go forward,
You-
absolutely
you
not.
are 100%
and that's a
right.
danger.
Absolutely.
Is this, but let's look at it for a moment from the other side. I guess I'll turn to you, Frank. Is this an issue to be decided in the state of South Carolina by their officials? I believe they need a 2/3 majority from their legislature in order to take it down. I mean, what about the rights of the people that, point to the history of the flag? And I know some say it belongs in a museum instead, but what about that point?
Well, look, I mean, I think there's something to be said for that, but I think even we're getting to the point where the majority of elected officials in states like South Carolina favor taking it down. You just saw the flag recently got taken down in Alabama. So it's certainly, I think the times are changing, and I think everyone's recognizing that whatever the heritage of the flag and Southern culture and states' rights, it has become adopted by so many white supremacist and hate groups that it has to come down.
And the executive did the legislature a great, did them a favor, honestly, because those who wanted it to stay up probably didn't want a public vote, and this way they could just scream about it to those who they, in private conversations. But they clearly didn't want to vote on this, so the executive just did the right thing.
Professor, I have 1 minute left. How does this play out in terms of the flag? And a question around the table quickly. 9 people lost their lives in South Carolina. Are we just going to now move on, or what's the aftermath of that? Those people that we're looking at that screen right now, all of them are gone.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the flag probably does come down in most places, but it doesn't solve the inherent issue, and it doesn't obviously bring those people back. And to do them service, there have to be more steps taken, and that's hopefully what people like Reverend Sharpton will be focused on.
Quickly, gentlemen.
There's not one issue that can prevent things like this in the future, but undiagnosed mental illness, people like this being able to buy guns in spite of previous arrests, I think that's a big problem. And the Confederate flag doesn't solve it.
Brad, I owe you for the next time because I'm out of time. We thank you very much, the 3 of you, for joining us. It is time for a break. We'll be right back.